Hi, this is the Eco Local Guy. We're here in downtown Saratoga Springs at the Peace Rally on Saturday, and today we have with us the candidate for governor for New York State, correct? Your name, sir?
Howie Hawkins.
Howie. So, you decided to run for governor. That's a pretty challenging race coming up. There's a few people, I guess, vying for that position. And what do you think you can do to actually help change the state for the better?
We can change the politics of New York by putting things on the agenda that the major parties won't talk about. And that can change the whole politics if we get a strong vote that sends a strong message. We don't even have to win the office to change New York politics. And what are those things? Well, we've got to have an energy transition, so we're on to renewables. Right now we're dependent on fossil fuels, which are running out, and also creating global warming. So this is just common sense. We got to do that. And if we rely on the market, it's not happening. We've given tax cuts to the rich in the state for 30 years. And what they're doing is speculating. In other words, they're rearranging existing wealth instead of investing to create new wealth. And the new wealth we got to create are sustainable technologies like renewable energy, organic agriculture, clean manufacturing, mass transit, and retrofitting our buildings. And the only way we're going to get that is if we have a fair tax structure that takes some of this speculative wealth that's not being used productively, run it through the public sector and put it to better use, and create a sustainable green economic recovery. What's on the top of people's minds is jobs. We have a jobs crisis. Steady 10% unemployment, no plan to create jobs from either the Democrats or Republicans. All they want to do is freeze public spending. In a recession, that's a recipe for more deficits and more depression, because to balance the budget, they're going to have to make further spending cuts. There's a hole in demand and only government can fill it. So those are the outlines of what we're doing. And I'll tell you, at the core of that is the stock transfer tax.
Say again?
Stock transfer tax.
Okay.
Stock transfer tax. Every trade, it's pennies on a trade that the traders have to pay. It's like a sales tax, but it's much less than the sales tax we pay. It was instituted in 1905, but since 1981, in an effort to try to get the rich to invest here, they've rebated it. Last year, that was $16 billion. If the state had just kept that stock transfer tax, instead of a $9 billion deficit, we'd have had a $7 billion surplus.
So right now that transfer tax is going where?
It's rebated right back to the traders.
Oh, back to the traders, okay.
Yeah. So
we're rewarding the fox watching the hen house.
We collect the money and give it back. Now the reason we still collect it and haven't just abolished it is the bondholders want to make sure the state's got the money in case there's a real problem and they want their money back from them. But they collect it and give it back. They can afford to let the state keep it and not have a deficit, fund our schools, fund the green energy transition, and the other things people need. And the rich would still be very rich. I mean, it's not like the guys on Wall Street. We just bailed them out, and they paid themselves tens of billions of dollars in bonuses.
That's right.
So, you know, they need to pay their fair share. They're not pulling their weight. And what the state and the major parties are saying is the working class, the people that work for the state providing services, and all of us that use public services, have to make up the difference on this deficit, which we shouldn't even have if the rich would pay their fair share.
You mentioned the other parties. There seems to be a lot of dysfunction in Albany, and the fact that they can't pass the budget, they ring up these huge deficits. Where do you see the Green Party making a difference as far as in the state legislature goes? Can we actually get these guys to actually pass a budget that makes sense and to stop the oppressive taxation that's actually affecting the middle income and low income people where they can't even afford to live in this state anymore?
The problem in the legislature is it's run from the top down by the leaders. The leaders have member items, and they dole them out to the members, the people we elect, based on if they toe the leader's line. And the same thing, each house has $100 million they hand out to the legislators with staff and Lulus and, you know, which office you're going to get. The Green Party position is get rid of the member items. They only started in the 80s, and all they are is waiting for politicians to buy votes by handing money out outside a legitimate granting process through the budget and through the agencies. So get rid of the member items and then take those patronage funds and allocate them equally in terms of staffing and funding for every legislator. It should be one person, one vote in the legislature. It shouldn't be Sheldon Silver representing the financial district having a veto over 150 members of the assembly. That's not democracy, and that's why we have dysfunction. The stock transfer tax we talked about, it's Sheldon Silver won't let that go forward because he's representing the financial district. And to those progressive Democrats out there, you need to look at your own party. I think you're like Charlie Brown. The leadership will offer you a few reforms. The leadership's like Lucy. And every year you say, okay, and you go to work for the leadership, and then you go to kick that football, and all you do is get his air, and you end up on your back, and Lucy's got the football. And that's the life of a progressive Democrat. I think it's like poor old Charlie Brown.
Sure.
On the other hand, a vote for the Green Party is a vote. Your vote can't be taken for granted. We may not win the office, but people know what it means. If you get in the Democratic column, people don't know it's a progressive vote. They just know it's a Democratic vote. And the leadership of the Democratic Party is taking the environmentalists, the labor activists, the ethnic minorities, the women's vote, the gay vote for granted. And they don't have to deliver anything because they think those people aren't going to anything independent. Well, that's why the Green Party's here. Those votes can no longer be taken for granted because they can go vote for the Greens and they know we'll back up on those issues.
So, Howie, contrary to what people say, voting for the Green Party is not a wasted vote. You're actually making a significant impact. Even though you might be a long shot, you're actually making a statement. We collectively, the people, getting behind the Green Party, can actually show the legislature and the standard parties, Republican and Democrat, that we're fed up with them and that we actually want to vote for change. Real change that can affect the real people here in New York State.
Yeah, our position is the wasted vote is the vote for the Democrat. If you want a clean environment, if you want equitable, fair tax system, if you want workers to have jobs and fair wages and working conditions, and so forth. It gets lost in the Democratic vote. Eugene Debs used to say it's better to vote for what you want and not get it than to vote for what you don't want and get it. And that's not just feeling good about your vote, that's a strategy, because the vote for the Green Party means to vote for our platform. Whereas if you move over to the Democratic column, even if you're a progressive and environmentalist, your vote is lost, because what's the Democratic Party saying? You know, they're the new Democrats, which is what Cuomo represents, not the old New Deal Democrats. The new Democrats, like Clinton, are like the old Republicans. And of course, the Republican Party's gone so far to the right, they're off the spectrum. I mean, all they can talk about is the things that are supposed to scare us. They have no solution for jobs.
Well, they're the candidates of the fear factor, is what it comes down to.
Right.
They're just trying to instill fear in all of us.
They're not even conservatives. I mean, take this Islamic Community Center. You know, Lazio and Palladino are trying to scare people about that. And what are they doing? They're taking the property rights of those Muslims, their First Amendment rights. The freedom of religion is the first clause in the First Amendment. It's the foundation. It means freedom of thought and belief. It's a foundation for freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of, organizing to petition the government. The first clause is freedom of religion. They're attacking that. So they're attacking the Constitution. They say they're for private property, freedom, and the Constitution, and in fact they're attacking those things. They talk freedom and they act like totalitarians. So they've just gone off the deep end. That's not conservatism, that's reactionary politics, it's just right-wing reaction.
So just in summary then, Howie, what can you say about your choice as far as an alternative to the major parties in this governor's race? Why should people ultimately vote for you and also vote for the Green Party?
Well, we're talking about a Green New Deal. We're going to pick up that torch the Democrats have dropped, provide people with jobs, and we're going to green it with ecology. So the new economy we build will be sustainable. And so a vote for the Greens is a vote for that platform. And if we get a big vote, even if we don't win the office, we will change the politics, because everybody who does get elected is going to know that a lot of people want that program. As opposed to if you just waste your vote inside the Democratic Party, you're voting for austerity, no jobs, further spending cuts, cuts in schools, cuts in transit, and no green transition in the economy.
Fair enough, Howie. Thanks very much. People will find out more information about your candidacy and as well as the Green Party in general.
Probably the best place to go is to my website, howiehawkins.org or .com or .net. They'll all get you there. And Howie is spelled H-O-W-I-E, and Hawkins is H-A-W-K-I-N-S. So howiehawkins.org, www. And or just Google Howie Hawkins, and the website will come up first probably. And there's a lot of information there, and you can link from there to Green Party websites. If you put this video on your website, we'll link to that. There's a lot of video material as well as written material, and I would venture to say there's more material on my website than all the state candidates put together. And people, you know, they want to think about policy and the election. You know, I think they'll find a lot of good information to learn a lot just by reading our website.
Thanks, Howie.
Thank you.
And this has been the Eco Local Guy here on Saturday, September 4th, 2010. Thanks for tuning in.